to NEK VT Rocks. My guest today is Diane LaPlante. Diane is a realtor. She's on the board of the chamber. She's involved with MAC. In fact, you seem to be everywhere. You're one of those perennial volunteers who's always there somewhere in the background. We're supposed to be talking about the chamber today, the local chamber, which has some great long title,
Vermont's North Country Chamber of Commerce.
North Country Chamber of Commerce. How did you get involved with the chamber?
Well, when I worked with my last real estate office for 20 years, my broker in charge, Rosemary Lalim, was very involved with the chamber and building up the chamber and the new building that sits on city land, but we own the building. And over the years, I saw how hard she worked, volunteered a little bit here and there, participated in some of the chili fests, and just saw how much work was being done there. And unfortunately, when it comes to volunteers, everybody wants to be a chamber member on the board, which I now am.
Right.
But they don't seem to have time to do much of the groundwork or the volunteer work. So things start to fizzle out after a while, and I guess there just was not enough activities going on and financial ability to maintain things. So at some point in time, a few years back, Bruce James called a meeting asking people who might be interested if they wanted to get involved. I went to that meeting, and when they asked what committees you wanted, and the Welcome Center came up, and I said, I'll take the Welcome Center. And so I've been working, cleaning it up, decorating, planting things outside, putting pavers outside, washing the outside of the building, trying to do membership while I was still working as a realtor, and trying to be there every single Saturday at least, trying to talk people into becoming volunteers so that we could welcome people or give directions to people. And I thought that was just an important thing to do, even though I live in Westfield. I just feel it's an important thing for the whole area.
Right. When I first moved here, which is 12 years ago now, there was a really active chamber. The information center was open every day. And I guess it was maybe 4 years ago that sort of gradually dwindled down. Is the information center open at all now?
Oh yes, I'm there every Saturday. And I now have 2 new volunteers. I sold a house to last fall on the other side of the lake. And they're very active Christian, active type of people. It's a couple. So
part of the sales deal was that they had to work at the info
no,
center?
they're just like really cool. They're very active in their church. They do a lot of volunteers. She's a retired nurse. He's a retired electrician. He had an accident and had to retire. And so they now work on Wednesdays and Thursdays. I have my German friend, Leonie, she's an older lady, and she works on Mondays. I do Saturdays, and I'm trying to find people for Friday, Sunday, and Tuesday, or I'd be willing to switch my Saturday. It's quiet. It's a lot of fun, though, when you get to meet people from all over the world. We've had people from Australia, Japan.
Of course, right now we're not getting anybody, unfortunately.
Well, we still are, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah, people are quarantining. They're coming up from different areas of Vermont. And up until, I think it was yesterday, the governor changed things. But we were still getting people from all over the place that own second homes here and might actually be here. So it's still, it's still open.
Yeah. How many members of the local businesses do you have, roughly?
That I'm not sure. We're right in the middle of a new membership campaign, and we do have some benefits that are going to be coming along that are new, and we did participate in putting together that grant for the Newport business
The
bucks.
business
there.
bucks. That is awesome.
Yep.
What a deal.
Yeah, and that sold out, like within 24
Yesterday,
hours.
right, I know.
And
Amazing.
we're also trying to put together a new map that's going to be able to be showing things all over the area that for chamber members. And also we have so many Canadians that were coming in, and that'll be geared towards them. So we have some new things coming down the pike, which we're hoping to really excite people about.
And from where I sit, and I'm not a business owner, so clearly I have a different perspective about a lot of this. I have sort of historically seen a Chamber of Commerce as kind of being a union for businesses, because together an individual business doesn't have much power, but collectively you do, and as a way for an organization to help with positive change in an area.
I can tell you one thing, when people come into the chamber building, almost every time, besides getting maps and directions, what is there to do? Where can I go and eat? What is there to see?
Yeah.
And it's been a little difficult to be able to explain that, but and then when the border was open,
Right.
we had so many bicyclists come in, and everybody's looking for maps of the trails, the walking paths, which I'm really glad. It's a lot to try and explain all of the different things, that changes that are coming about without actually having anything to be able to give people.
Right.
Sometimes that gets a little tiresome, so we're working on trying to put all that together in one package that will benefit anybody that is a chamber member, plus just be able to explain things to people so much easier without going into long detail
Right.
about everything. But people are interested in the history. We get people that come up that have used to live here years ago, and they want to see what it's like now. You get to hear some really interesting historical stories. So I like to be able to inspire people. They always are saying, oh, this is such a beautiful area.
It is.
And so trying to talk positive, trying to be positive about what's going on Main Street, trying to be positive about the potential. I lived in Mystic, Connecticut many, many years ago for a while, and it was very similar. Main Street in Mystic, even though you had the drawbridge and that went into Mystic Seaport, they started having a big major art show right on the street. It was like a 3-day event where people would have to have a booth that they could zip up at night, and then they'd have security. And once they did that, they became almost immediately, there was no more empty shops. Everything became a bistro. People were coming from New York, people were coming from Boston, and they were coming from Springfield, Mass. And I've been working on trying to get people excited about trying to do something like that myself for years. And I don't think we're quite ready yet, and of course now, it's probably going to be a little while.
Fast forward to 21.
But I believe that with Medford Magog Arts Collaborative involved at some point, I think that we will be able to do more events, including performing arts, which would really be a plus. Years ago, I worked at the Hartford Civic Center and was involved in, directly involved with all the shows that came in there. I was even there when the Rolling Stones came in and things like that. So,
fortunately, you can take off your chamber hat and stick on your MAC hat and pull people in that way. I mean, you're really a catalyst in a lot of ways.
Well, I don't know about that, but I do try to always promote MAC, because when people say, what is there to do? Well, there's the boardwalk, there's the hiking trail. If you're a bicycler, there's a few trails around.
There's 2 boats for the lake.
At some point, when I'm not sure when they'll be running.
They're ready to run. All we need is COVID to quit.
People have been asking about that for the last couple of years.
They're both ready to run.
People ask about historical things. I tell them if you go to MAC, even downstairs, they usually have a traveling exhibit of some sort or other, and it's a place where you can get things that are homemade by different artists. Even in MAC one day, a lady came in, she was from another state, and she happened to see that we had homespun yarn, that had been grown
yarn.
And spun and dyed for sale, and she said, "Oh my God, I've been trying to find something like this for ages." She bought over $200 worth that one day and said she was coming back. Yeah. And I also talk about the library and the historical parts of the library that people can go and look, and even in the state office building on the 2nd floor.
There's a beautiful exhibit there.
Yes, yeah. And so people, not everybody wants to hike or go on the walking trails, so they need to have other things to go and just.
We have wonderful restaurants.
Right, and I do promote our restaurants, but I'm supposed to promote the ones that are members, and it's very hard when some restaurants think that, well, I don't need to be part of the chamber because I already make enough business. That's not the point. The point is to promote the chamber, to promote the area, to promote the whole downtown and area.
But as the chamber becomes a fun and successful place to be involved, others will want to join anyway, just because it's the happening place.
I'm not sure. I think it's more what you can benefit as a community by having not only, you've got a nice sign and you're right front and center, and people can see you when they come in, and you don't need to be part of the chamber. But on the other hand, wouldn't it be nice when people come in and they say, well, what is there to do? Where can I go to eat this? And I reach into one of our different display areas, and I pick out this, and I pick out this, and I pick out this, and I say, this is nice, this is nice, this is nice, because they're not going to be able to remember everything.
Right.
And then we have something new. It's kind of under wraps right now, but we do have something new coming down the pike that we're hoping will really bring the whole area together, especially for people that are into digital. And I've noticed that many of the people, especially Canadians, that come in, they no longer want paper anything.
Right. It's all on their phone.
Right, and they'll take pictures,
Yeah.
especially the bicyclers and the motorcyclists and that type of thing.
Yeah, welcome to the 20th century, even up here.
Yes, but you still have people that aren't doing too much of that, and so you have to have the ability to be able to hand them something, or just get up off your desk and show them with a highlighter on a map, that type of thing.
What keeps you volunteering? Not just at the chamber, but in general, because you're the perennial volunteer.
I've always been a volunteer. When I was 14, I started volunteering. My father had moved us to Connecticut at that point, and I volunteered in an old people's retirement home. And their librarian had left, and their recreation director had left. So I was an unpaid librarian and recreation director. I loved it. It was so nice. You get to talk to people, and you could tell they were so lonely.
Right.
And they would just love to have someone be nice to them, chat with them. And also they had so much historical knowledge.
Right.
So I really, really liked that. And then later on I volunteered at that point Newington had the Children's Hospital, which is now in Hartford. And I volunteered there as an art therapy kid, because I was always into the arts. Later on I worked there for a little while. And when I came back here to Vermont, in Westfield, they have a very historical library and museum called the Hitchcock Memorial Museum, and they have very limited hours. And I thought, well, this is crazy. This is such a cool place. So their old schoolhouse in town was converted to a community center, so I got permission to run a coffee house there once a month on a Friday. And I did that for 7 years for fundraising for the museum and library. I kind of got burnt out after a while because it was a lot of work.
Sure.
But we had so many musicians that would come and play and jam. It was really, really interesting. I even did a couple, maybe 3 Christmas buffet dinners for appreciation for all of the musicians and all the people that came. So that was kind of fun. I believe I live a very solitary life, but I do believe that people should try to contribute somehow to do things to, it's not so much as giving back, it's just participating. It's kind of like when people are complaining about things and I say, well, did you vote? Well, no, I don't believe in voting. Then don't complain.
You get what you asked for, right?
Don't complain.
Right.
So it's just a matter of being a person who likes to do things to help other people, to contribute to society. And a lot of times they say it's the people that are the busiest that
Absolutely.
are the ones that volunteer more. And I know there's many really great people that do volunteer, like the Meals on Wheels. They're always looking for people too, drivers and things like that. Anyways, there are just people that are that way, period.
It's true.
Either you're into it or you're not. But
Right.
I think sometimes people are shy. And it's not hard to be able to just help people find their way. I would love to have people that might be interested in coming and volunteering for the chamber any 4 hours of any day of the week. I would love it. And it's not hard to do. It's pleasant. It could be boring. You might end up having to read or look at the computer.
Oh, that's okay.
But if it's kind of busy, the time goes by quickly. You meet interesting people. And I just think that it's a good thing for the community. People go by, they see you're open. I have, last week, I think that somebody stopped in and they said, you know, I've driven by here for so many years and I never stopped. Do you think you might have a map of Vermont? and we had a nice little conversation and he was really excited. Wow, it's nice in here. And that's usually what people say when they finally do make it in the doors.
So if people think they can't commit to, say, once a week, will you take volunteers who can give what they can give, but not necessarily consistently because they have other things in their lives?
Well, yes, we can do that. It's just, it would be nice to be able to know that, you know, like on Monday, someone will be there like from 11 to 3 or from 9 to 1 or from noon to 4 or something like that. It's a bit of a commitment, but it's not hard work. We're not expecting you to do anything other than be pleasant, talk positive, do not make negative comments about certain things on Main Street. And I always say positive attracts positive.
And the sense of humor. A sense of humor really helps.
Yeah. And patience enough to be able to give directions, and if you just be able to look at the map and say, okay, here's the map, here's a highlighter, you're here right now, and this is how you get to where you're going. Yeah. And then talk about the restaurants, you know, if they ask, what about this restaurant? Or we're looking for this, or we're looking for that. So it's just trying to keep people motivated to come back. That's the whole thing, is repeat business.
Right. I mean, that's how a town grows. And there must be people who just passed through and bought houses here based on just passing through.
Yes, and also we have people that come in and say, I never realized how beautiful this area is. I'm going to come back, or I'm taking my vacation here next year. And so they get excited, and you know, I've sold a couple places to people that they have family on the other side of the border, and they want to kind of be closer to the border. And they think that this is it's not too boring for them. This is kind of a nice, quiet area, but there are things to do. It's a different way of life.
Right.
You have to be able to, deal with snow, driving in snow, deal with cold. I had a lady call me from the other side of Vermont who had a place on the other side of Vermont. This was a month or so ago, and I was out working in my garden, and she was from California and had moved out of there to get out of the rat race.
Mm-hmm.
And she wanted to buy a vacation home over on this side, and I had something that she was inquiring about. And she says, someone told me that it gets to be 20 below there.
Uh-huh.
And I said, yep, sometimes it does. I said, but once it reaches 32, it's plain old cold, and after that, everything's, she says, does it get colder than that? I said,
Sometimes.
It might. And she says, oh my, I'm not sure. I have to talk to my family about this. But it was so funny, so cute. And you just have to learn how to live in a rural area where if you want to do your shopping, if you can't find it locally, you have to drive or go online to do your shopping or plan your trips, just like the old days that hitch up the wagon, go into town.
It's true.
And make a list, which I have today for coming into town. I've got my list now, all these different things I'm going to do while I'm in town.
Smart thinking. But that is how most of us live anyway, whether we live in an urban setting or a rural one, because we still have to make a list. We may have to deal with more cold here, but go somewhere else, you're going to have to deal with heat and humidity.
Traffic.
And we don't often have to do that. And traffic, yeah.
Yeah. I particularly like the area, and I feel that we have a lot to offer, and we have a lot more opportunity to grow.
Yes.
I remember the first time I came down Main Street, we had, I think it was Chris Johansson that had the Mexican restaurant back then.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, this town has so much potential. What happens when people have been here for a long time, they kind of give up because it's going so slow, and they don't think anything's ever going to happen. But all those people that don't think anything's ever going to happen, are they actually participating in the community trying to get things?
Change happens when we all play.
Right. And it's not necessarily always change so much, it's everyone participating in going forward.
Right.
In taking advantage of your potential.
Mm-hmm.
We have lots of potential, and it's just a matter of you got to hang in there, tough it out, and it's going to happen. And it is happening. It's just not everybody sees it, and the more people that become involved, I think Newport is finally starting to realize its potential. And it's just a matter of now following through and going through some of these difficult times that we're going through.
And 2020 has been a particularly tough year.
For sure.
And it ain't over yet.
Yep, that's for sure, definitely.
But it can be one of those sort of historical markers that once you're through it, you can look back and say, wow.
Well, I've got this little carved out piece of wood that's a cat. I've had it in my bathroom for almost 25 years, whichever bathroom I've had. And he's hanging on a branch, and he's saying, hang in there.
Right.
And I keep that there as a reminder. It'll get better soon. Hang in there, it'll get better soon. And that's how I choose to look at life.
Yeah. Are you still working as a realtor as well?
Yes, I transferred my license to Keller Williams. I hang my license in Stowe Area Realty Group, but I work now out of a home office in Westfield. And it's not as easy because you don't have any walk-in traffic or the calls coming in. But I really enjoy being in the country, and I still have, people that I deal with, and people that believe in me, that try to, either sell or buy. And so I do have business, not like a big office, but
Right.
still on.
It also gives you an amazing perspective on the whole of the Northeast Kingdom, because you must see so much of it.
Yes, and I'm very lucky where I live because there's a beautiful waterfall across the street and nice big swimming hole, and it's a really great place to hike, and they have thousands of acres that are up just beyond where I am, so you can wander around as much as you want, and it's not unusual. One year I had a big moose try and step up onto my porch or wander down my driveway. I do poetry, so one of my poems was "There's a moose in my pond," and so it's interesting and challenging.
Yeah, you're also a painter as well.
I do mostly right now poetry, and I've done just a little bit of painting.
Yeah.
I've done mostly sculpture and pottery when I was finishing up over at Johnson State, which is now Northern State.
Yeah.
I really got into the sculpture end of things and hope to do more of that. I'm trying to, this little place that I have has a little barn, so I'm working on converting it into a studio. And I brought one of my sculptures home from Johnson. It was pretty big, and I've got that in the middle of one of my flower gardens, and this year I moved it around so it's getting a better coverage and had climbing things all over it. So it's fun. I'm having fun kind of creating a lot of stuff in raised beds. You know, I built myself this spring out of some old wood, and so it just makes you a more whole person, having things going on a little bit here and there. I don't have any problems with ever being bored. My biggest problem is, I wonder if I can manage to read a little bit today.
Right. There aren't enough hours in the day.
That's right. That's how I look at it. There are not enough hours in the day. And there's so many just really interesting things to learn and see and do. And life can be pretty interesting if you allow it to be, instead of probably being bored. I have a hard time wrapping my mind around people that are bored.
Yeah, I'm not very tolerant of that either.
Well, it's not even so much tolerance.
There's
just
so
like
much out there.
Right. Even if you're just by yourself, there's so many things you could be doing.
Right.
Continuing your education, learning a new skill, learning how to make something, learning how to cook a different culture.
Yeah.
That was another thing I had done once or twice at our community center. I've always really been interested in culture. I think that's maybe why I like the Welcome Center. And I did a couple of potlucks where everybody that came, I asked them to bring a CD of a music from their culture and then a dish that represented their culture. And I'd like to do that again sometime, but in this area. I think it would be very interesting.
That would be great.
It's just a matter of where can you do it? Who's going to be open to your allowing you to do something like that?
Well, there are a lot of facilities like the VFW. They have a big space and kitchens there, which they will rent out.
I would like to do something more creative.
Elegant.
No, even one of the churches, one of the church halls or something. I think it would just, anyways, that's my thought.
Sounds good. Sounds really interesting.
Yeah, because the more you learn about people and their cultures, the more that it opens up the world for you.
Right.
And also
Exactly.
creates tolerance.
In the last couple of minutes, this goes really fast, is there anything that the Chamber is planning in the next few weeks that would be fun for people to be involved with?
Oh, I forgot, yes. We're setting up our Santa's Village again this year. I think I might have mentioned it earlier. Inside the Chamber building, my 2 volunteers are putting that together, and they will be probably ready for us to have visitors about the first week of December.
Great.
And we just ask that people wear a mask when they come, and that we don't get too many people inside the building at one time.
Right.
And we're asking for food donations. We'll have a box or two there. And last year we did ask for food donations, and that did go to worthy causes. And I know for sure we'll be open Saturdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And I think Mondays, my elderly lady doesn't like to drive in the snow, so I don't know how much longer she'll be there on Mondays. But Donna and Keith, the two volunteers, husband and wife, they work really hard at putting this together. And last year, I was amazed, more elderly people came to look at the Christmas village than young people.
You mean older than us?
Older than us. Made us look like youngsters.
That's
coming
great.
in with a little cane all bent over, because they like that type of thing, and they've had their own collections. So we'll have, you know, hot chocolate and cookies, and we just really ask if people are careful, wear a mask, and bring some kind of food donation, or plural donations.
That
will
sounds
go
like
to charity. We'll hope to see you there.
Oh, I'll be there.
Okay.
That's the fun thing. In a small town, you can participate in everything.
Now, normally we do a Santa Fest, but this year we're not going to be able to. We had to cancel our Chili Fest.
Right.
So I'm not sure what our next event. I had scheduled a antique tractor show. We got permission to do that downtown in the park, where they have the farmers market, but that had to get canceled.
Right.
So I'm hoping that next year, I really love old antique tractors, so I'm hoping that next year we can try and start the first one. And I have to figure out what is going to be the best time for farmers to bring their old antique tractors down. That's not going to be in the middle of haying or cutting corn. But if anybody has any suggestions, or if they'd like to get involved with that, I would love to do that, to have their help. And I think it would be a fun thing to do every year.
It would.
And so they can reach me at the Welcome Center on Saturdays.
That's great. Thank you so much for coming in and doing this.
Thank you for allowing me to share what we're trying to do.
There's so much happening.
Not enough.
I agree. And that's it. We are out of time.